Ah, the fleeting journey of life, ever so delicate, like the fall of a cherry blossom petal on a spring breeze. The question is one that has perplexed the human soul since the dawn of time. What happens when we die? What does the Japanese Shinto tradition, rooted deeply in the ancient ways, have to say about this final passage? I invite you, my friend, to sit with me in contemplation as we explore the Shinto view of death, a view that speaks not of finality, but of transition, reverence, and an unbroken connection to the sacred forces that govern the cosmos. In Shinto, death is not an abrupt cessation, nor is it a punishment. It is part of the natural order of the world, a continuation of the eternal dance between life and the spirit. The fundamental view in Shinto is that all things are imbued with kami, sacred, divine spirits that reside not only in gods and goddesses, but in natural phenomena, ancestors, and even inanimate objects. This spiritual presence connects all beings to the divine, intertwining the human soul with the very fabric of the universe. When a person dies, the body no longer functions as a vessel for the kami of that individual, and the spirit, the true essence of who they are, returns to the realm of the divine. The ancient understanding of death is not that it marks the end of a person's existence, but rather that the spirit becomes one with the greater whole of the spiritual world. This transition from the physical to the spiritual is a journey, one that is closely linked to the ongoing relationships between the living and the deceased. Death, in Shinto, is not something to fear. It is simply a transformation, a return to the sacred flow of nature and the divine forces that govern all things. But how, my friend, can we truly understand this journey? What is it that happens to the spirit after the body has gone to rest in the earth? Let us turn our thoughts to the kami, which are not bound by time or space, but exist in a realm that is simultaneously distant and close. They dwell in the natural world, mountains, rivers, trees, the wind, and even in the essence of the ancestors who have gone before us. So too do the spirits of the dead, the Mitama, remain ever present in this world, dwelling among the living, offering guidance and protection, and receiving the offerings and prayers of the living. The soul of the deceased in Shinto is not abandoned upon death. Instead, the soul embarks upon a sacred journey. It is believed that the deceased, much like a guest at a distant home, needs time and care to find peace. In the early stages after death, the Mitama, the spirit, might still feel connected to the world of the living, wandering between the physical and spiritual realms. During this time, it is essential for the living to perform rituals, offering prayers and food to honor the spirit, so that it may find its way into the eternal peace of the kami. But what, my friend, can we learn from these rituals? Why do we go to such great lengths to ensure that the spirit finds its way? It is because we understand that the boundary between life and death is not an absolute one. The spirits of the dead are honored, not just as figures of the past, but as active participants in the ongoing flow of the world. In this way, the relationship between the living and the dead is not severed. Rather, it is nurtured and carried forward, forming an unbroken circle of respect, memory, and spiritual connection. You might wonder, as I do, how it is that we, the living, can continue to honor and communicate with the spirits of the dead. In Shinto, there is a practice of creating Mitamashiro, sacred spaces where offerings are made to the ancestors and where the spirits can be revered. The offerings often include food, incense, and flowers, things that are pleasing to the divine. These rituals serve not only to honor the dead, but also to ensure that the spiritual connection between the living and the deceased remains vibrant and strong. Through these practices, we come to realize that death is not a separation, but a continuation of our relationship with the kami. However, do we ever wonder what the deceased experience after their transition into the spirit world? In the heart of Shinto belief, there is the understanding that the spirit of the dead is not merely passive. It continues to evolve, just as the living continue to grow and change. The Mitama may first journey to the Yomi no Kuni, the land of the dead, where they undergo a process of purification. Much like a seed that is buried in the earth to germinate, the spirit may undergo a transformation, a cleansing of the attachments of earthly life, in order to become one with the greater forces of the universe. This process of transformation is not punitive, but restorative. The soul is not punished for its mortal flaws, but rather, it is gradually prepared to rejoin the harmonious flow of the world. Some Shinto teachings describe this process as the spirit evolving into an even more sacred state, eventually becoming an ancestral kami who watches over future generations. In this way, the dead never truly leave us. They become integral to the spiritual balance of the world, influencing and guiding the living from their new place in the divine. It is in this respect that Shinto differs markedly from other religious traditions that envision death as a final judgment or a one-time event. For the Shinto believer, the passage of death is seen as a profound continuation, a continuation that is shaped by the love, respect, and offerings of the living. Thus, death is not something to be feared, but a return to the very source of all life and spirit. So then, what does it mean for us, the living, to consider death from the Shinto perspective? It means we must understand that death is not the end of our relationship with the deceased. It is merely a transition. The spirits of our ancestors live on in the natural world, in the land, and in the sacred places where we honor them. Their influence continues to guide us, even though their bodies are no longer with us. And so in life we carry them with us, remembering that the spirits of the dead are never truly gone, but live on in the heart of the world, shaping our paths and ensuring our connection to the greater spiritual forces. And here, I must ask you, my friend, how do you honor your own ancestors? Do you see them as mere memories of the past, or as active participants in the unfolding of your own life? Perhaps it is in recognizing their continued presence, not as shadows, but as living kami that we begin to truly understand our place in the cosmos. Our lives, after all, are not isolated events. We are part of a vast, interconnected web of spirits, both those who walk with us and those who have passed beyond the veil. Ultimately, the ancient Shinto view of death is one of reverence, continuity, and connection. It teaches us that death is not to be feared, but understood as a sacred transition, a return to the divine forces of nature, where we continue to exist in spirit, ever intertwined with the cosmos and the ancestors who guide us. It is a reminder that we are never truly alone, for the spirits of our loved ones walk with us, not just in memory, but in spirit, watching over us as we continue our journey. And so, as you contemplate the nature of death and the journey of the soul, I ask you, how might you live, knowing that death is not an end, but a transformation into something greater, a return to the divine and the sacred forces that surround us all?